does the king of rock and roll start his career? At the hardware store, of course. That's where Elvis Presley picked out his first guitar for less than $10. But he didn't keep this off-the-rack six-string very long. This instrument quickly changed hands. The story of Elvis's wandering guitar is an odyssey through the heartland and a testament to great triumph. On January 8, 1946, Gladys Presley took her son to the hardware store. The future king of rock and roll had just turned 11, and in spite of the crushing poverty of the Presley family, Elvis had been given a few dollars to pick out a birthday present.
Elvis wanted a .22 rifle, but the .22 rifle was $28, and they couldn't afford it. So Gladys tried to convince him he ought to take this guitar. There were 3 guitars, so she had enough money to buy the middle guitar of $7.75. I understand he pitched a fit that day at Tupelo Hardware because he just didn't want the guitar.
The shopkeeper, Forrest Bobo, later recounted the moment when he played an unwitting role in rock and roll history. I let him play with the guitar for some time. Then he said he did not have that much money. His mother told him that if he would buy the guitar instead of the rifle, she would pay the difference for him. Elvis taught himself to play the Tupelo Hardware Special with a few borrowed songbooks. And soon the boy and his guitar were inseparable. But it would be a few years before the guitar made its public debut. In 1952, the Presleys moved to Memphis. Soon after, Elvis was playing guitar in the school band at Humes High School. Elvis's star was beginning to shine.
This was the time that he first met Red West. Red was somewhat of an accomplished musician. He was in the school band at Humes High School. He tells me that he actually taught Elvis where the strings were.
A few months later, young Elvis stopped by Sun Records recording studio in downtown Memphis. He sang My Happiness and That's When Your Heartaches Begin, which Elvis, always the doting son, dedicated to his mother. By July 1954, under the tutelage of producer Sam Phillips, Elvis deployed the Tupelo Hardware Special to record a rocking single called That's All Right Mama. The song quickly became a radio hit. With his name on the charts, Elvis wanted a real guitar. By September, he purchased a 1942 Martin D18 at a cost of $175. His $7.50 hardware special was retired from the stage. In 1955, he gave the guitar and an old Ford to a high school buddy named Red West.
So he gives Red the keys to the old Model A, you know. So Red takes it about 2 weeks later and drives it to Jones County Junior College with the old guitar in the back seat of it. And heck, he was on his way to do whatever he was going to do at college, you know.
It was there in Ellisville, Mississippi that West played on the football team and made friends with a freshman quarterback named Ronnie Williams. After a year, West left college and gave the old guitar to his teammate.
Ronnie thought this guitar might have a connection between he and somebody that probably pulled himself up by the bootstrings from poverty as much as anybody in the world has ever done. So this kind of gave Ronnie an idea, this guy's something's going to happen to him, something big's going to happen to him.
Ronnie's future, on the other hand, never took off. His plans for a football career fell through. He began to drink. As Elvis added to his growing cache of hits and instruments, this little old guitar remained out of the spotlight in Ronnie Williams' home, scratched and forgotten in a closet.
He knew that nobody knew he had it. He knew Red West knew he had it, and he wasn't willing to let anybody know that he had it.
Including Elvis. Red West, who was now a full-fledged member of the Presley entourage known as the Memphis Mafia, offered to introduce Ronnie to the king. Though he idolized Elvis, Ronnie declined. He was afraid Elvis might find out he had his guitar and ask for it back. On August 7th, 1977, Ronnie Williams had a strange dream. Elvis was playing blackjack, and even though he had several winning hands adding up to 21, Elvis somehow couldn't win. Shaken by his dream, Ronnie called his brother Bill and begged him for a promise.
He said, 21, 21, 21, 21, 21. All this 21 means something. He said, if anything ever happens to Elvis, if anything ever happens to me, don't you ever sell that guitar or do anything with it for 21 years.
The very next day, the news went out that Elvis Presley was dead. He was 42. 3 years later, Ronnie, ravaged by alcohol and beset by hallucinations, fired a gun out his window at night. When neighbors called the police, the officers ended up shooting Williams and killing him. Hours after the shooting, Ronnie's brother Bill found the old guitar. Bill Williams kept his promise. For 21 years, he guarded the guitar. In 1999, Bill decided the time had come to put the guitar back in the spotlight. He wrote a book about the guitar's unusual history. He dedicated all the sales of the book to educate young people about the dangers of alcohol. The guitar is the foundation's showpiece.
What we're going to do with the book is market it to high school and college and middle high school kids and tell the story of Ronnie and what happened to him, to learn the firestorms, the daily firestorms that Ronnie went through and how alcohol ruined his life and eventually took his life at the age of 44 years old on a cold winter's night on the ground here in Pensacola, Florida.
In his lifetime, Elvis amassed 18 #1 hits, hundreds of guitars, and millions of loyal fans. But none of it may have been possible without this $7.75 hardware store special. Elvis Presley's first guitar is part of the Ronnie Williams Foundation in Pensacola, Florida, and is publicly displayed in schools across the country. Next on History's Lost and Found, the search for legendary bandit Pancho Villa's death mask. Stay tuned.